because the sunrise is predictable. The tide here in my little village is predictable. I can look at a book and know every day this year when the high tide is going to be here. But, I know that it's still predictable. We don't shout at the sun to say, I didn't want you to come up now. I want you to come up in an hour's time. We work with the predictability of the tide and the sun. And yet, when we come to people in our lives, we suddenly don't want them to be predictable, and we judge them for being themselves. You're always late. It's like, well, if they're always late, just stop it. That they're always late. Account for that. I'm sure that there's other characteristics of yourself that annoy them, and they're accepting that of you. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? Let's apply our energy to something we can change. The technical answer is I use metaphor. But I suppose the reason is that when we're overwhelmed, when we're stuck, when we're stressed, don't know what to do, anxious, they are all behaviours or feelings that stop us accessing our logical mind to know what to do. So it's like when we're anxious, it's quite normal to not know what to do. When we're out of sorts, when we're depressed even, then our ability to access our logical mind is significantly reduced. I mean, literally 5 minutes, I can have either asked a question and they've calmed down and then they know what to do. Because everybody knows, I think that's the thing, everybody knows within themselves what to do. But when we're overwhelmed, anxious, stressed, out of sorts, our ability to communicate with the part that knows what to do, it's like the wires have been cut. So all this technique does is reconnect those wires so we can hear our own inner wisdom that says, oh, I need to do this.
This is Alone and Unafraid. Welcome back to Alone and Unafraid, where we explore the intersections of everyday life, mental health, and mindset with ordinary people who have or are now facing incredible challenges. My name is Thad King, and I'm your host. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of patterns, nature, and personal growth with Alison Smith. But before I get into who Alison is and what she's all about, I got to welcome my main man, my PIC, partner in crime, Tyler Huckett. Welcome, buddy.
Hi.
Alison is an inspiring speaker, coach, podcaster, and author who helps people get back on track by using nature as a powerful metaphor for life. With over 20 years of experience in helping others find clarity and over 37 years of exploring patterns in behavior, Alison is the creator of the innovative Landscaping Your Life Toolkit, which transforms problems into opportunities for growth. She's the author of 2 incredible books, Can't See the Wood for the Trees, and Your Prescription for Well-Being Journal, which brings her unique perspective to life's challenges with humor, insight, and unconventional tools. Let's get into it with Alison. Alison, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so as a lot of people can hear, Alison is not from the U.S., and you're originally from obviously the UK, but are you from Scotland, or it sounds like you don't have a pure Scottish accent?
No, I was born in the Midlands, so not down in London. So in the UK, they'd say I was a northern accent, and then picked up from various bits within the north of the UK, and then moved to Scotland 20 years ago. And bar the odd word, and talking quickly, haven't picked anything up from Scotland.
Yeah. I can hear it a little bit every now and again and stuff you say. And Tyler's just recently was in Scotland last year.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. Whereabouts?
Over. Oh my God, I can't remember the name of the town.
Well, you guys flew into Edinburgh, right?
Yeah, we flew into Edinburgh, and we were about 45 minutes to an hour north.
Perth around there,
Yeah, over
or
in that area.
Loch Lomond, Highlands, sort of
Yep.
going into the Highlands.
Yep. We went and did. Oh my God, my brain is completely off today.
Sorry, that's me.
The Catamaran Trail. So we went and walked the Catamaran Trail.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, the scenery's nice there. Although
Yeah.
the scenery will be nice over with you as well, because we don't have quite as big hills, do we?
Oh no, but they're nice though.
Yeah, we don't have, we live in Florida, so the biggest hill is our trash dump,
Yeah.
which
Our
is about
parking garage.
200 feet tall.
Yeah.
And we woke up this morning and it's a cold morning here. It was 65.
Oh my God.
And so that's like, what's that in Celsius?
Well, we're about
15,
12.
maybe?
Yeah, we're 12 today.
Oh yeah, not that bad. Yeah, okay, that's pretty good. So,
But
well,
my company, just where Tyler was walking, my company is a rewilding business partner for a charity here in Scotland that's looking at rewilding where the Scottish Highlands.
what is
With the
rewilding?
intention, well, it's taking it back to what it used to be like. So in the States, you do have areas where mountains have got trees up to the top of the hill, up
Right.
to the top of the mountain,
Most
and
of the mountains, yeah.
and you've got apex predators.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have bears, we don't have wolves, we don't have lynx, and as a result, our nature, our landscapes are depleted because of it, because we've got very few trees on some hills, and that's just
Right.
because the deer get to them before they have chance to take hold. Whereas if we had the discussions about lynx first, won't be until the 30s, lynx first, wolves in the 40s, and if we're really, really lucky, we might get, well, I won't be here then perhaps, but brown bears.
Yeah,
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I guess I never thought of England or the UK as having I mean, I'm sure they were back in the day. But it's interesting in the United States, especially here on the East Coast, growing up as a kid, we never had coyotes. And did you guys have coyotes in Vermont?
Oh yeah.
Up there?
Yeah, we still have quite a bit of area. There's still some potential mountain lions running around up there too.
Yeah. We've always had mountain lion. We've always had in North Carolina they're cougars, and in Florida they're panthers. But it's the same big cats.
Yeah.
And I actually saw a panther when I first moved to Florida, right down the street from my house, and
oof,
it was majestic and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah,
that's a big animal to see in a neighbor. And we live in a slightly rural area, but not that rural. But we live next to a national wildlife refuge, so we get a lot of bobcats, lots of stuff. So it's interesting to hear that they're working on that in the UK. As a kid, we would never see coyotes, and now as an adult, they're everywhere. I mean, I can hear them howling at night here. And 30 years ago in Florida, in the southern United States, nobody had heard of coyotes. So they're making a comeback. The wolves are. I think that's a big success story out there in Wyoming. They released all those.
Depends on who you talk to.
Yeah. I'm sure the ranchers don't like it, but I mean, it is what it is. But
for sure.
Well, hey, so today we want to we're talking about you kind of specialize in helping people kind of get unstuck, but you have an interesting way of doing that. What's your methods of how you help people get unstuck?
Well, the technical answer is I use metaphor to do it. But I suppose the reason is that when we're overwhelmed, when we're stuck, when we're stressed, don't know what to do, anxious, they are all behaviors or feelings that stop us accessing our logical mind to know what to do. So it's like when we're anxious, it's quite normal to not know what to do. When we're out of sorts, when we're depressed even, then our ability to access our logical mind is significantly reduced. So more logically minded coaching tools and techniques don't always work, because you think of a situation that you're stressed about, and in some coaching sessions you might be asked to talk more about that situation, And that's just going to up the ante on the anxiety, overwhelm. And so the reason I use metaphor, I realise, and I suppose the reason came after I'd started using it, is it's as if we're sending the problem on a coffee break. We're saying, dearest problem, we'll come back to you, because otherwise our logical mind wants it to be heard. So we sort of have to do a little bit of coaxing to say, dearest story about the situation you're telling, the data, the facts, that's all going to go on a coffee break while we have a bit of a play. We're going to explore it using metaphor, and I use nature as that metaphor, so that if you can't see the woods for the trees about a situation, rather than you say, oh, well, I can't see the wood for the trees because, this is what's happening with my life, and this person's doing this, and then that I tried that and that didn't work. That's on the coffee break. And then I go, so if you can resonate with not being able to see the wood for the trees, and I appreciate over in the States it might be can't see the woods for the trees, or even can't see the forest for the trees. But if you resonate with the saying, there's a whole landscape there in what you're describing your situation is. You're saying, my situation feels like a wood or forest that I can't see for the trees. So rather than dive into the detail and all of what's causing the anxiety, I just say, so let's explore it. Let's explore the wood. Let's imagine, what would the wood look like? What might the solution be if you were in the wood that would help you see it? And so we use it metaphorically, but what happens is you get solutions at a metaphorical, you might, I need a map, I need to follow a path. Why am I even in the wood? So you get these insights. And then when you come back to and you bring the story, the problem, the situation back from the coffee break, quite often you don't have to do anything else, because something inside has shifted. The overwhelm has reduced. I don't know what to do has disappeared. And at least you've got an action that says, oh, I need to do this. And therefore, when the problem comes back, situation you're struggling with, comes back from the coffee break, it's as if the story has changed anyway. It's like, oh, yeah. Before we did this sort of intervention, I was struggling. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't think there were any solutions. And now at least I've got one.
Yeah. Do you find that most people, or the people that you work with, is it typically in a vocation or a job being stuck, or is it just run the gambit of, because a lot of folks that are probably listening to this are former military folks that are going through a season of change, and we just talked about it on our last, it was a few episodes ago, about this thing called a warrior complex, where you misalign, you did a job for so long and that kind of became your identity, and then now you no longer do that job, but there's a misalignment with what your kind of values and morals, because you were kind of living a false persona for however many years, and it became. Do you work with people that have those types of issues, or is it just, do you run the gambit of what you're helping?
Yeah, anything. I mean, quite often, I suppose the people I come into contact with, it is in a work context. But to be fair, the people that then come to me normally are at their wits' end, as they'd say here in the UK. So it may not be anything to do with work, but work are the ones that are paying, work are the ones that have got them in contact with me. And therefore, they'll sort of apologise for the fact that, well, this doesn't feel very worky. So I don't think there's anything, an area where you can't apply this to.
Yeah.
Because what it does is, I mean, friends will ring me. It's like I'm the friend that people ring when they're overwhelmed, because they know that in 5 minutes, I mean, literally 5 minutes, I can have either asked a question and they've calmed down, and then they know what to do. Because everybody knows, I think that's the thing, everybody knows within themselves what to do. But when we're overwhelmed, anxious, stressed, out of sorts, our ability to communicate with the part that knows what to do It's like the wires have been cut. So all this technique does is reconnect those wires so we can hear our own inner wisdom that says, oh, I need to do this.
Yeah. And that's what our buddy Adam Majors, he's a clinical what is it, a clinical therapist? Is that
Well,
is a
he's a
therapist?
clinical manager for clinical manager.
The Battle Within. Yeah,
the Battle Within, but he's an in-depth or a depth psychologist.
Yeah. And he kind of basically said what you just said is he explained it in a clinical term, and you put it in layman's terms, which I think we can appreciate the layman's term of understanding.
I can appreciate the layman's.
Yeah. And
the interesting thing, though, is your mention of warrior, because that in and of itself, although that might be the job, it's also a metaphor. And so I can understand when somebody is in an environment where everybody is running the warrior metaphor, and therefore it works because you know what the rules are. Everybody operates the same. And so when you come out into the world and people are all running different metaphors, like some people might have a warlike metaphor, somebody else might have a garden, life might be like a garden, other people might have life like a race. And of course, dependent on how the metaphor we're operating determines how we deal with stress, how we deal with work, how we deal with relationships, what the goal is. Because a marathon is a very different goal than 100 meters. If you saw life as a series of 100-meter races versus somebody else going, I see my life as a marathon.
Yeah, we use that metaphor a lot in the U.S. military. Is, hey, this isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. You got to pace yourself with and we're often using it in the context of the actions we're going to take to do something, not necessarily living your life. But I think it's probably good wisdom to live your life through that metaphor of, sure, there's going to be times that you need to sprint, but long term, it's a marathon. But how would you tell somebody asking for a friend that has issues with like this person that I know gets stuck with little trivial. Do you guys use tick turd? Do you guys use that term in the UK? Tick turd?
I've never heard that until I came down here. Tick turdy was no, I've never heard that either. Yeah. That's just a you thing, I think.
Small. Yeah. Or like nitnoid. That's a Thai word, nitnoid. Means small. But because we were talking earlier before we're recording about what kind of mountain would your problem be. And I think my problems, or the person I'm asking for, is my mountains are probably really molehills, and but they feel like mountains, and so kind of back to the original question I was going to ask is when somebody's every little tiny thing that's really insignificant, and you, deep down you know that this is insignificant, but it will send you into a tizzy. What kind of techniques would you have for those type of things, or is there a technique for that?
Well, the one that comes to mind, but ask me the question again once I give you the example of what comes to mind.
Yeah, sure.
I suppose there's lots of places I could go in terms of books I've read that would help with that. But in terms of, if we stick with the fact you've got other people coming on the podcast whose expertise is that area, I'll stick to my metaphor. So what I would be tempted to do is say, so if you were to draw it, how would you draw it? Or so if it was a mountain. But the example that comes to mind was that I was in a room and we'd got pipe cleaners. Now I don't know if we're even. Does everybody know what pipe cleaners are these days?
The people that listen to this podcast do. I mean, it was cool. Kindergarten, arts and crafts.
Cool. Yeah, and, exactly.
I had a brief period where I smoked a pipe, so I'm very not cool. That kind of pipe, but
but you could do it if you had Lego, or you could do it with anything really. Which says, if you'd got a whole heap, which is what this team had got, the whole heap of pipe cleaners in front of you, what would you do to those pipe cleaners to represent the situation in terms of what pipe cleaners would represent the bigger things? Because you're saying there's little trivia and there's things that aren't trivia. So how would you represent it? And what happened was, and this was about emails, and what they did was they had each email was a separate pipe cleaner. And what they did was say, well, I'm going to show how I deal with my emails all day. And so it was from top to bottom. It was as if they had a pipe cleaner equally spaced between the beginning of the day and the end of the day, because they were dealing with the emails as they came in. So it was just email, little gap, email, little gap, email, little gap, email, little gap. It's like, so as you look at that picture of a page full of pipe cleaners with little gaps in which to do things, is that helpful when there will be things that you need to do where you need bigger gaps? And so what they did was go, oh. And so what that helped them do was, well, I can just deal with my emails twice a day. And so they moved all the pipe cleaners together into two buckets, which gave them bigger gaps. So I think it's just coming up with some metaphor that makes sense to you about how to deal with little things and big things. So for me, it would be bringing in the big things as well, because otherwise you could get lost in the little things. So it's like little trivia versus whatever description you might use for the opposite to little trivia. And then it's to draw it, to represent it in front of you, to say, here is how I'm currently dealing with it. So what I've heard, and you can tell me another alternative, but what I've heard is it's as if we've got all these little things in front of you and the big things are behind the little things.
Yeah. Actually, surprisingly, that actually helped. I didn't think it would, but now that I think about it, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like we always say, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. And do you guys say that in the UK?
Yeah.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Have to do a side episode about slang and
crossover terms. Like rabbit hole.
And get Jenny Milton on here too.
Yeah,
you can do Australia, the UK, and then us.
The Geordie accent, is it called Geordie?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That one is really hard to keep up with I think for Americans. But anyway, but I kind of like it. But it's like you love to hate it. It's like a New York accent, like like it's kind of like nails on a chalkboard. But you also
I'm saying nothing.
Yeah. So for all the Geordie listeners,
that you've just alienated.
Sorry. But I'm sure everybody else is agreeing with me. But maybe not. But I think that's a perfect way to put it, because just thinking about it, I actually literally do what you just said. Like when an email comes in, it's a shiny thing, and then I read the email, and then I get all worked up about it, and then I think about my response, and I craft. And so what would normally take me 2 minutes to answer the email, because it's a personal affront to me, the thing that the person said, or the ignorance, or whatever they were doing, I'll spend an hour and a half crafting a really laser focused, precise scalpel of an email that goes right to the problem. And then I think about, now that I'm actually thinking about this in real time, the person that wrote the email put zero thought into it and just fired it off. And then I wasted emotional energy and time responding to somebody that, and the thing is, it's a molehill. I know that it doesn't affect anything. So that's actually a good, and the crazy thing is I know about chunking, and I know about, but when you said it the way you said it, it like clicked in my head, like, oh,
that's why metaphor, that's why I'm visually drawing it. That's why going out into nature and seeing it's really helpful. So, how many times, so I was in the sea, because I swim here in the Scotland, and so I do some video blogs from the sea. And this week's video blog is about when we get frustrated with people for being themselves. So we know that, don't we? We know, that friend that's always late, that friend that interrupts all the time, that friend that whatever it is, or that manager that does it, always works a particular way, and we get frustrated and we get annoyed about it, and it's as if we think we can change them by getting annoyed.
Alison, you're speaking my language here.
But when I was in the sea yesterday, I quite often the video blogs start with me laughing, because that's an insight comes in, and because I'm there, chatting about something else, and then an insight comes in. And this was about the fact that when the sun rises, because the sunrise is predictable, the tide here in my little village is predictable. I can look at a book and know every day this year when the high tide is going to be here, which is really helpful because I can only go swimming at high tide. But I know that that it's 7:43 or whatever is the sun rising, and it is predictable. I mean, okay, we changed the clocks at the weekend; it's still predictable. However, so we don't sort of, and this is what the video blog said, we don't shout at the sun to say, I didn't want you to come up now, I want you to come up in an hour's time. We work with the predictability of the tide and the sun. And yet, when we come to people in our lives, we suddenly don't want them to be predictable, and we judge them for being themselves. You're always late. It's like, well, if they're always late, just stop it. That they're always late. Account for that. Actually, I'm sure that there's other characteristics of yourself that annoy them, and they're accepting that of you. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? Let's apply our energy to something we can change. I cannot change what time the sun comes up, but I can change what time I go down to the beach to accommodate that. In the same way as, whether it's the tide or like when the sunrise and the high tide align, I'm certainly from October to March, because of where the sun's coming up. I mean, I love it. But I have to adapt my behaviour so that I go swimming, because it's no use me going, say at midday and going, I'm getting upset that I've come swimming and I'm missing the sunrise and the high tide. It's like, well, that's because I didn't adapt my behaviour.
Yeah, that's interesting, because my mom is late always. I mean, she was an hour late to my wedding. Yeah, and it wasn't because she doesn't care. She forgot her dress. She was going to get dressed at the church, but left it at the hotel, and then had to go back and get it. And just typical my mom move. We'll leave her purse every restaurant we go to. But over the years, we've developed that we always tell my mom 40, whatever the real time is, we move it to the left 45 minutes. But every time we leave a restaurant or a venue or wherever we go, hey, do you have your and we kind of make a little mental checklist for her and accommodate that. And what's interesting is we do that for the people that we love, but we often don't do that for the people that you don't necessarily love.
That's lovely.
But you spend 8-9 hours with these people every day, and then you're insane when you get done at the end of your workday, and it just kind of dawned on me, maybe we should accommodate them. Oh gosh, I don't want to do that, but maybe it would be helpful.
Well, I mean, do you really want to accommodate stupidity?
Well, that's what I mean. I don't know that you're accommodating stupidity as much as you're just giving them space to be dumb and that you're not going to react to. And you could probably church that up a little bit, but it's an interesting take that I never really thought that other people's lack of care or concern or whatever, maybe the road to freedom from that is just to give them the space to not care, and just, for lack of a better term, lower your standard, not your standards.
Okay. But the thing is,
right?
The thing is that by your standards, they're not achieving your standards. And your standards are determined by your values and what's important to you. So being on time may be important to you. There will be and it could be that being on time is how you show and demonstrate to somebody that you love them. And therefore, you may have this belief that says, if somebody's late, they don't love me. I'm not saying that that's true, but that's what we're doing all the time. We accuse. I mean, it's one of the things that I have to walk away from quite often, because people will call people disrespectful or dishonest, and yet if you sort of go into under the detail, into the detail of it, really they're only being dishonest according to that person's definition of honesty. And I mean, honesty and respect are two huge conversations where you could have a separate podcast for each of those, and we still wouldn't be able to agree on a definition for each of those words. Because is honesty, for instance, always telling the truth? Or is it not being dishonest? Are white lies okay? And so if somebody doesn't ask us a question, is that okay? So we can continue to lie, sort of, as long as nobody overtly asks us a question where we would have to admit our lies. Respect is the same. It's like, well, in different, but it's still the fact that each of us will have our own. It's not as if you can go to a dictionary and everybody will agree what any value is, whether it's respect, whether it's love, whether it's honesty. And if it is one of our high values that is what gets us out of bed in the morning, we will get so angry when somebody doesn't give us our definition of those, for example, those three that I've just mentioned. And that's when you can notice that it's a value that's being compromised, that the other person's compromising, because of how angry we get. And then we look around and notice that other people are not as angry as we are about that other person's behavior. And it's just because, well, it's because that is what we value. And we
just described every day at work for me.
So, but that is what's happening. Everybody listening will have instances. It's like I could be in tears. I can remember at work being in tears about somebody's behaviour. Well, a number of different people over the years' behaviour. I mean, in tears and absolutely livid about how dare they. And that was because they weren't respecting my time. And they thought it was okay to, I'd ring them, we'd be there on the call, and they'd go, oh, I've got my grocery order now, I'm going to have to go. It's like, hang on a minute, we're having a conversation now about what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. You haven't told me what you want me to do for the rest of the day. I'm sitting here, I'm only going to get paid, blah, blah, blah. But I realised that was because respecting my time was a value of mine, because somebody else would just go, yeah, cut him some slack.
Yeah, actually, we did this in real time yesterday, Tyler, because we work together in our day job, but we had an incident where an employee was told to do something. He didn't do it, and now it's going to cause us problems. And really, if we zoom out, it's not really a problem for us. It is going to cause us to rearrange some stuff. But I think you were mad about it, and you weren't mad. You were disrespected.
I was irritated. I think because
Raph was mad. We have another coworker named Raphael, and he was mad.
And there will be reasons. I mean, some of it is you've all asked somebody to do something, haven't done it. I'm not saying that that's definitely values, but the level to which we get angry,
your reaction to it,
yeah, and the level to which we are unable to accept the other person's point of view about, oh, I didn't realize it was that important, I had something else to do, or whatever. The fact that we're not able to, it's sort of I'm not listening. And as soon as we're doing that, the chances are it's what value are they compromising?
Would you say that if you feel that way and those values are constantly being compromised, is that indicative of you're in the wrong culture or setting, or does that just mean you need to chill out a little bit?
The answer could be both, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know that there's a yes or no answer. However, what I know is 24 years ago, when I went and learnt about the impact of values, and I learnt something called neuro-linguistic programming, which is all about how our brain works. Somebody said to me afterwards, "Oh my God, you're so much easier to deal with." And I thought, in my head, I thought, "Oh my God, and so are you." And so what had changed was my understanding that how I see the world is not what the world is. It's just I've got a whole load of filters that I'm using that I see the world different. I see the world in this way, and it isn't the truth. It's got a whole load of values, beliefs, memories, because we cannot see 100% of what's there. So we will only notice what's out there in the world based on our values. That's how we can have what we've got at the moment from a political point of view, is people saying, how can you possibly see that person like that when I see that person? It's the fact that we're not looking. We're looking in that, say, 1% of a person's behaviors and making an assumption based on that 1%, based on our filters, because we can't possibly see everything. So if you're there looking at the world, so from a metaphor point of view, it's as if we've got a 360-degree view, which is the world, at any point in time, we're only ever facing in one of those directions. And one of those directions, dependent on what's there, we may not see all of it. Because if I look up, I'm not seeing down. If I look slightly to the left, I'm not seeing to the right. So I'm making assumptions all the time about what's to my right. If I'm looking to the left, then I'm making an assumption about what's happening over here on the right, based on, I live on my own, so I sort of know that the room won't have changed since I last looked. But if we're out in the world, that is how we're operating. We're operating as if how we see the world is accurate. And absolutely, there's three versions of any situation: yours, mine, and the truth. And none of us ever get to the truth.
Yeah.
And as soon as we realize that, it takes some of the heat out, because we suddenly, what I was doing was saying my opinion, I think, suddenly. So rather than saying the situation is X, this is it, I'd go, oh, I think this. So in the case of this person at work who hasn't done something, then rather than go, oh, how disrespectful, or oh my God, you've caused us all this problem, it could be, our understanding was we'd asked you to do this by this date, and therefore we are upset that that's not been achieved. Is there a reason why it wasn't done? So it's very different, because we don't automatically assume that other person is in the same thinking and looking in the same direction of the room as we are. And so we're always going to be looking in different directions, but as long as our language and in our heads, we're going, no, I'm looking in this direction. Oh, they might be looking in the completely opposite direction.
Yeah, I think a lot of military folks have a really difficult, and probably law enforcement officers probably the same, is they work inside an institution that kind of defines those values and standardizes everything, so everybody's kind of on the same sheet of music, and the entity, the organization tells you we're all looking this way, and this is what and I think the miscompare is when you get out of the military or out of law enforcement, or you spend a long time in a corporate career or wherever, and you leave that, you're now thrust into the situation and potentially working with folks that don't have that same background and don't have those same views. And so their decision-making process, which frankly is what drives me nuts about where I work, is it's not that the people, their approach to things aren't in my head as efficient as they could be. And so that's where I think but the folks that I work with, we all came, and quite literally came from the same exact organization where we were working together in the Army, and we share those same values. So we kind of go into this loop of, we see it this way, and then that negativity starts to spiral and gets bigger and bigger. And it's not always going to be so cut and dry that they're just seeing it different. I mean, sometimes there are just stupid people, but I think you're right, is you got to take it into context of where they're coming from.
Well, I think what it feels like, to use another metaphor, is in the military, in the Army, at least in our unit, it felt like everybody was rowing in the same direction. So everybody's in the same boat, and we're all paddling in the same direction, using the right paddle for the job. Where at work, it feels like some people have drilled holes in their paddles, some people aren't paddling, and some of the people who are paddling in a different direction than where the ship is headed.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's a perfect one. That's actually highly accurate for
But
where
that
we
gives
work.
you, but I will jump in on that says, okay, great. You have now got a metaphor. And if other people agree that that's a great description of it, then what would you do with the metaphor? Yeah, what would you do in that situation? If you need everybody to be going in the same direction, and to have paddles that act as paddles, and that we row at the same time, and all of that, it's like I've put in to do a TED talk, and for me, it's about not dismissing the metaphor when we come up with it, because we could sit there, you could say, all right, we're not being as effective as we should be. Let's get a flip chart, and we could write it all on, and we'd dive into the detail, and it could get nasty because people are going, well, you're not doing this, and what about that, and here's the data, and it's but. And this is why I love metaphor. If you turn around and said to people, and I did it, we brought two teams together, and everybody was blaming everybody else because your team is, why is your boss the big boss now and not our boss? But as soon as you do metaphor, people they send all of that judgment, all of that, whatever judgment of other people on the coffee break, and then they go, yeah. Do we all agree we need to be going in the same direction? Yeah. Can we all agree that it feels like we're rowing and we're on a river? Yeah. And is it a big boat? What sort of boat is it? So you could have a conversation about, do we need an engine instead of oars? Okay. And then you can have a conversation about, how do we become efficient rowers? And the thing is to stick with the metaphor for as long as humanly possible. So at no point, so it's least an hour in that context, if you've got a few people, of absolutely diving into the metaphor. Yeah, because who's the river? What's the river about? How do you slow a river down? How do you speed a river up? How do you get off the river? So absolutely take it, go off at whatever tangents you like around the oars, the boat. Who's responsible for looking after the boat? Who's responsible for being the cox? Is there a cox? Is there a cox going, and row? And then I don't know. I've watched those TV programs where they suddenly go, and 30, and then they all know what that means, and suddenly they're going quicker. I don't know. I'm assuming that's rows per minute. But anyway, so absolutely, and just as I've demonstrated, if somebody doesn't get the metaphor, it doesn't matter, because they can ask silly questions where somebody goes, oh, yeah, you're right. So you end up with this beautiful metaphor of, okay, here is the metaphor of what we need. We want our team to be an effective, efficient rowing team on a river, and we want to get from A to B as quickly as possible, or whatever. And then what happens is once and as I say, it's not about jumping back too quickly, but once you've sort of mined the metaphor for as much as possible, then it's turning around and going, right, okay, so who's the what did I call them? The cox. Okay, have we got somebody that's calling out what we're doing? You know what? We haven't got a cox. Is it any wonder where people are doing different things? Because, if you look at, coxless pairs, perhaps not. But, if you look at any of the Olympic stuff, then the cox was the one that, the cox is the one that gets thrown in the river, because they're the ones that quite often make a difference between success or not. So it could be, well, we don't think we've got, you have a difference of opinion about whether you've got one or not, who it is, how they are communicating. Oh, okay. So we actually need a drum beat where, the cox, is saying something on a regular basis so that we all know that what we're doing. What we're going to do to make sure that everybody's got a paddle that works and hasn't got a hole in. So what you'll end up doing is coming up with lots of different solutions, but between them, all those little actions will then mean that as an organisation, it's more like rowing smoothly rather than sinking.
Yeah, that's That's actually pretty good, because as you were saying all that, I'm in my head.
I'm putting
going,
faces.
I'm
putting faces and names on these.
To names, yeah. That was really good, and I actually kind of feel like that actually could help us. So it's and it's interesting too. I think because you had said, in the how could this person, we talk about politics. How could I can only assume in the UK that the current political climate is I'm assuming is ultra divisive. Like, here, is it really divisive?
Not as bad. It's not as bad. We've just had an election. We've got a new government. I don't think it's as bad. I don't think it's not
we
as
have a special
polarized.
kind of bad here.
Yeah, it's to the
well,
point now.
it's a different system, isn't it? It's a different system in terms of how, as in, who is PM here, Prime Minister here is determined by who are the, who we voted for. And we don't vote for the Prime Minister. We vote for
the party.
For the party. Now, okay, some people might be doing it for the who's running the show, but most will do it on a party bit, and therefore you do have a bit more. And we've got more than two parties, and Alison's sounding like she knows about the political situation here in the UK, and she doesn't really very well, especially Scotland, because Scotland's a bit different. Because actually we've got another party that the rest of the UK doesn't have, the Scottish National Party. So that sort of adds. So no, I don't think it's as because actually we've had a lot of changes of Prime Minister, even though the Conservatives were in for a while, and I think they had 3 or 4 prime ministers during that time. Now, that says more about what was happening than anything. But but it was showed that we, at the time, Conservatives have the majority.
It's to the point in the United States where we have families, even in my own family, and social media is not helping. But I was thinking about it yesterday as I was driving home. People have signs they put in their yard, in their front yard. Vote for this guy, vote for this person. And I was just kind of chuckling to myself. I'm driving by and I'm like, what makes you think that a blue and red sign is going to be like, oh, you know what? I saw that sign and I was like, this is the person I'm going to vote. Like, what is the point of that? Anyways, my point to this is people only look at it from where they're coming from, to the point where my mother-in-law and my wife have had a split over politics. And I'm like, look, this is ridiculous. Why would you, I just can't believe she would vote that way. And her mom is, I can't believe you would vote this way. And I'm like, well, I don't actually think most people, if you really boil it down, there's probably a very small percentage of folks that truly are into it. The other 80% of the folks out there just want to live their life and do, be okay and have decent things. But that's a whole nother podcast that we try to steer away from politics, because it just
not my
goes
favorite.
off the deep end. And we're I think self-aware enough to know that I'm never going to convince another human that my way of thinking is right. That's a fool's errand. Like, I can just try to live my best life, and maybe if you look over and go, oh, well, that's working, let's do that. But how would you say when as an individual, if you're dealing with is stuckness a word? Is that a right term?
I like it.
Yeah. What do you, if you feel stuck in a relationship or a maybe a way of thinking, what's a metaphor to get out of that rut or get out of that way of thinking?
Okay. Well, I suppose the reason that I wrote my book, which is Can't See the Wood for the Trees, is that we all have a different metaphor. So one of the things I was going to say about your work situation is it might be, what I've done in similar situations is send the team out into nature and say, come back with a metaphor. Now, or it could be draw a mountain. So it will work better if as a team you identify a metaphor. So it could be that if you understand, we've got music behind Tyler, it looks like. So it could be if everybody's into music, they might want to use, guitar playing. I don't know anything about that. So it could be the music, it could be, football or soccer, or I don't know, baseball or whatever. But that's why I've sent people out. So I've sent, teams out into nature in smaller teams, and they've come back with, this is the current situation and this is a solution. So for instance, there was one team that resonated with the meeting was sort of in the middle of nowhere. Well, I mean, it's all relative. We don't have as many as middle of nowheres as you do, but nevertheless, it was, in the countryside. And they were walking down this country road, and the country road obviously had got a dead end because there was grass growing up through the middle of it. And it was a vision setting day, and it was all about what do we need to do differently for the flourishing of this organisation. And as they're walking down this track, they sort of turn to each other and they're saying, well, yeah, it's a bit like we're stuck in a rut, isn't it, this organisation, and we're headed for a dead end. And if we don't do something different, we're just going to come to the end, and that's going to be it. And as they're talking, this is why I love using nature. And this is why I'd encourage anybody to do this in terms of go out, look at nature and go, what in that landscape represents how I'm feeling currently? And where do I find the solution? Because what happened in this instance is, and they're there in suits because I'd forgotten to warn them they were going outside. And anyway, they're going, and I so wish I'd rushed out and taken a picture, because I've spent the last 20 years trying to find a picture that describes this. But basically, somebody spied a hole in the hedge, and they went, oh, what we need to do is go through that hole. So I think there was 6 of them or something. So they all went through the hole in the hedge, and then there was a big field, and they walked to the top of the field, and suddenly they could see for miles. And so for them, it just shifted them from, oh my God, I'm stuck in a rut, to, oh my God, look at this view. The world is our oyster. We just need to, do a bit of a 90-degree turn. We need to push through the overgrowth. We just need to stop doing what we're currently doing, because if we're just headed for a dead end.
Yeah, that's did you set that up with the hole in the hedge, or they just naturally found it?
Yeah, there was 3 different groups, as I recall. One ended up going to a cemetery, one went down the path, and one stayed in the garden. So so for me, so you could just do that. So if you're feeling stuck, go out into nature. There's loads on my YouTube channel talking you through all of this. In terms of, if it's like, well, I don't know what she's talking about, I do it as a demonstration, and then you get a sense of it. If you're not, I mean, I'm hoping people are getting a sense of it from my description, but sometimes there's nothing better than seeing me in the water, treading water, to get a sense of it. But what the book did, and my podcast, if I'm honest, is I've said, well, when people are stuck, they resonate with a number of, is it backed into a corner that you're feeling like? Is it stuck between a rock and a hard place? Is it you need to turn a corner? Stuck in a rut, up a creek without a paddle. I could go on. And so what I've done is said, well, for every one of those idioms, there's a different metaphor contained with each of those idioms. And therefore, if you resonate with I'm backed into a corner, then explore the corner, have a conversation from a metaphorical point of view. Go and stand in a corner. How does that feel? Are you facing the corner? Are you facing out of the corner? What, etc. So I would normally, in a one-to-one coaching, I'll be listening out, because what happens is people give us these metaphors in their language anyway. So, if anybody's listening now, they'd be able to go and look at the podcast or even the YouTube and go, oh yeah, that saying resonates with me. I'll explore that. But people are quite often saying it anyway. It's like I just sit there and wait, and then they'll go. So, for instance, I was with somebody in the Botanical Gardens in Edinburgh, and they said, I'm at a crossroads. So, and now this comes back to your decision making, interestingly, because so thankfully the botanical gardens has got loads of paths that all crisscross, and so loads and loads of crossroads. So we just explored their decision making. So every crossroads we got to, I said, oh, so which way do you want to go? And they'd go, I want to go this way. Okay. And then we'd get to the next crossroads and I'd go, which way do you want to go? And after about 4 or 5, I went, there is a pattern, you know. And they looked at me and I said, you are always choosing to take the path that doesn't have a sign telling us where we're going. So it was, and I can't even tell you how we managed to find a crossroad where, because normally every crossroad, if it's 4 directions, you'd have 4 signs. But it's as if we kept finding the crossroads where there was 4 directions and only 3 signs. And they always wanted to go down the route that hadn't got a sign. And that for them enabled them to understand so much about the job they do, because they like new product development. They like taking the organization into areas it hasn't been before. And that helped them in that instant. So again, you know, they were taking that particular problem with them. So if they took a different problem on the same walk, they may have made different decisions. So I think, so it's interesting about you saying about, oh, people are making decisions incorrectly. It would be really interesting to go on a walk as a team to say, you know, where there's lots of crossroads, and to actually get to the crossroads and go, okay, so what criteria are we going to use as to which direction to go? So somebody might go, oh, that looks interesting. Somebody else might go, well, we said we were going to do the longest walk. That direction gives us the most steps. Somebody else might say, well, we need to get to A, and that's the quickest route to A. Yeah, so one's doing it for steps, one's doing it for the quickest route. Somebody else is going, I don't know, do we know where we're going? And so what happens, so absolutely, if you've got a decision to make, take the decision with you and just notice what you notice about how you make decisions.
That's really cool. I guess it's never been put that way where I could kind of visualize what you're saying. And now as you're saying all that thing, I'm thinking of all the people I work with, and we're walking down the path, and I'm like putting a face to the I want to go the shortest route. That's that guy. I want to go the most steps. That's this guy. I don't even know what we're doing. That's this guy. So I think it probably actually really helps. I'm really curious, because how did you get into coaching? Because it seems like we've talked to a coach before, and I'm genuinely interested in it. How did you get into coaching? Because you've been doing it a while now, right?
Yeah, 24 years.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that it wasn't that's what I want to do. I mean, I'd been in purchasing. I actually used metaphor in purchasing first. So, you know, in an organization, we're there trying to get managers interested in managing suppliers, and they're just going, no. And we're trying to do it very, you know, strategically and processy and going, but here's what best practice supplier management looks like. And they're going, no. But then I discovered that, okay, so let's talk about designing a garden. And, you know, here in the UK, most people have got gardens. So brilliant. We could, you know, what do we need to have a flourishing garden? Well, we need plants. They need to be in the right conditions. They need to be watered. They need to be fed. They may need to be pruned. Weeds taken out. And so as soon as you say, okay, so we do that in a garden. So if we have a garden full of suppliers, the penny drops that, oh, I've got loads of weeds that are suppliers. Oh, the reason that supplier, that I have been blaming that supplier for not doing what we want and for failing. But the reason that they're failing is that I've put them in the far corner of the garden in soil that doesn't work for them, and I'm paying them no attention whatsoever, and I'm expecting them to grow, and they're there's trees over them, they're not getting any water. So I think the other thing is a lot of times the metaphor pushes it back from us blaming somebody else to us taking responsibility. So I suppose I liked doing things differently. So that worked in the 90s. And then I went on this neuro-linguistic programming course. I came back from that into work. Work was merging. And so I became like the office coach. So, and it was just me sharing what I was learning. So I was going on the NLP course for my own personal growth. It was like I felt better. I understood me better. So there was loads about self-awareness in there. As a result, it meant that I could deal with other people better, but it also meant that I learned tools and techniques that I could coach other people with. And I became, certainly when we merged, it's like if anybody had a problem, it would be, oh, go and talk to Alison. Oh, yeah, I mean, sometimes I'd have both people, two parts of the problem, speaking to them separately. And then I'd try, not divulge what the other is saying, but it did it did enable me to ask different questions. So I suppose, and then what happened was that I just was enjoying that, and I'd started to use nature as a metaphor with the landscaping your life. So landscaping your life was born in the 2000. And I just enjoyed that. And it just felt like it was law of diminishing returns, that the team that I'd worked with didn't need me anymore. And I just thought that I could make more of a difference if I, work for myself rather than for an organization.
Yeah, that's a theme that that Tyler and I talk about a lot is, or Tyler, what is it you want to stop making somebody else rich, or what's that thing you say?
Yeah, I think something along that line. I don't really have a tagline for it, but I'm just tired of making a bunch of money for somebody else. And not that I'm a bunch of money is my end goal, but if my output is only for other people and there's nothing, I get a paycheck, right? And I get some health insurance and some other stuff, but
there's not a lot of.
I don't feel good about the work. It doesn't do anything for me. You know what I mean? So
I think probably as a coach, you probably get a dopamine hit when you help somebody, or it feels good to help other folks through a problem. At least I would. I feel like it would help.
You're providing something useful to somebody, right? Versus like, I'm just trying to sell a product because the product exists, right? Like they made it just to sell it, not because somebody needs it. And that doesn't, like, there's nothing fulfilling about that.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, I was saying before we came on the call that, I've just re-energized my YouTube channel. And for me, you're right, that dopamine came in, that within a few hours, I'd got people, and it happened again today. I put something on TikTok, and literally within 5 minutes, somebody put something to say, oh my God, that was really helpful. Thank you. Yeah. And it was just them trying out something that I'd suggested. And I think perhaps that's why I want to do YouTube and take it seriously, because I've always used it to dump videos into as a reference guide. So I've always got it there. Somebody might say something and I'll go, oh yeah, there's a video there. Have a look at that. Whereas I love the idea of that, these two people really quite quickly, and then somebody today where, oh yeah, I tried that. The thought that I've done a video and somebody I don't know, and they may very well be the other side of the world, thought, oh yeah, that's a really good idea, I'll try it. And then, because there must be other people where they tried it and they just liked it, whereas these two people tried it, liked it, and then decided to leave me a comment to tell me what they thought about the outcome.
We get text or emails about our podcast, how a certain episode has helped them, and that little bump is enough to make us want to do another one. And I think on your videos, and you can go to Landscaping Your Life. If you just search that on YouTube, it'll bring you to Alison's channel. It's Landscaping Your Life with Alison Smith, and it's 1 L in Alison. But if you just Landscaping Your Life with Alison Smith, type that right into YouTube, and it'll bring it up. And there is a significant amount of content on here, and it's kind of categories. I like the way you've kind of broken it down. There's use nature to get back on track, and then there's a whole series there, and then there's a whole series of your podcast that you've been on, which you could probably take nuggets of that. So it's laid out pretty well. And the one I like, I watched it, is there's one that says dive in to avoid procrastination, and like you're in the water and you just look like happy, like genuinely happy to be there. And I think people people resonate with people that are being genuine. And I think when you watch these videos, you can see that this isn't a sales pitch for you. This is how you
no, not at all. Yeah. I think that's why I've decided I quite like the idea of YouTube, because actually I can just get on and do what I enjoy, and hopefully then if people like it, that I don't have to ask people for money. I don't have to sell it. The fact that the system will do that, and I can just do what I enjoy, because there were lots of things I could do that requires me to sell and requires me to do things that, so it's just that, you know what? I just love going out into nature, and invariably it's like that one that you looked at. I don't suppose for 1 minute I thought I was going to do that video. It's like I always take my stuff down with me, and then I get there, and then I either perhaps sometimes get in the water and go, oh, all right, yeah, or I suspect on that one it's like as I'm getting there I go, oh, okay, yeah. Let's do it on that. So I use personal experience, and I think my favorite, well, no, I've got a few of them, but one of them is where I do a minute plank, which I appreciate for people listening isn't a long time, but for me, it is. I do a minute plank talking to camera.
Yeah, and that one's called What's Your Prescription for a Resourceful Mindset?
So that just made me giggle, because for me, plank. So this sort of, I've written Can't See the Wood for the Trees. I've also got Your Prescription for Wellbeing journal, and and to be fair,
that's the newest one.
That's the newest one. But to be fair, you don't have to buy. See, look, this is me selling it. You don't have to buy it, because you can just go on my blog and find out the questions that he asks. But the premise of it is that when you're out of sorts, the last thing you know and can remember is what to do to get you back into sorts. But at some point you go, oh yeah, I should have done that. Oh, that always works for me. And so what these prescriptions are about are you writing down ahead of time, so that next time you feel out of sorts, you can get the journal out and go, okay, yeah, it told me I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't talk to that person when I'm feeling out of sorts. Or I shouldn't pick the phone up when that person rings. Insight for me this week. Or it's like my personal trainer and I realised that if I'm really, really out of sorts and I'm muddled, plank does it for me.
It brings you back to...
Yeah. It's because it's like it's bringing me back into my body. So wherever my brain has gone, the plank and the fact that it's using every muscle, it's all tense. So, and then it starts to hurt, which in the video you get, because I just, yes, I mean, I'm talking, and then every now and again I'm going, that's hurting. So I think, so I just, the other video that I like was, and I've done an update of it today, which will be on the channel in the next few weeks, is about putting the stick down that we're beating ourselves up with. So we're hard on ourselves. We judge ourselves. We tell ourselves.
Speaking to Tyler right now.
We, we beat ourselves up with the stick. Is the comment? Is the phrase. So I went out during lockdown to explore that, and I just envisaged, and this is where it's really useful, that next time you're in because at the moment with it being fall here, then there's loads. If you get anywhere near a wood, there'll be lots of sticks. So if you resonate with beating yourself up, being hard on yourself, then go out into the wood and pick up sticks and just notice what you notice. Because I thought I was just going to pick up one stick and that I'd have one stick that I beat myself up with. But it felt like when I got to the wood, oh no, I have a well-being stick, I have a bad eating stick, I have a procrastination stick, I have a stick for every thing. And so what I thought to do initially, and I think for some people this works, is it was just, okay, these are the sticks that I used to beat myself up. I'm going to throw them away. And then a few weeks later, and this is the update that I've done today, or recorded today. A few weeks later, I was at the top of and this is where we get, hopefully Tyler will resonate, is I was at the top of the hill and there were no sticks because there were no trees at the top of this hill, so no sticks at the top of this hill. But I bet you, Tyler, wherever you are, you can beat yourself up with a stick. Yeah.
I'm always in a forest of sticks.
Yeah. So even when you're in a mountain, at the top of a hill or a mountain, you've got sticks. So what that then did was take me to realise we've got a backpack. We're carrying, and then I laughed because I was literally top of the hill, leaving the car park, and I sort of put my brakes on, thankfully nobody behind me, and giggled at the thought of, oh my God, I've got a stick that I can beat myself up with. Because how ludicrous is it that in order to have a stick to beat ourselves up today, we picked it up days before. So days before, when we hadn't done what we've just done, we knew, our story we're telling ourselves is I need to pick a stick up in order to be able to beat myself up because I know I'm going to do this, and this and wrong in the future. And that's just ridiculous because that is a story because we haven't even got there yet. And we're picking the stick up, telling ourselves, I am going to beat myself, I'm going to beat myself up about this. Now, today's walk added something else in when I realized that there were lots of trees with sticks that hadn't, still attached to the tree. And I got really relaxed because how would it be? It's not about not picking them up. It's not about, it felt like I've gone backwards. First time I did it, it was about throwing the sticks away. The next time I did it, it was about, oh, why am I picking them up ahead of time? Today was about, well, the sticks are attached to the tree, so there aren't any sticks to pick up. And I could feel all of my body relax about, I don't have to pick them up because the trees are keeping the sticks. So what did you get then, Tyler, about your beating yourself up from that stick analogy?
That I have a pretty big backpack.
Yeah. So what could you do to that backpack? Do you think you could get rid of the backpack? Is it about making it smaller? Is it about burning the sticks? So this is just where playing with the metaphor.
Burning was the first thing that came to my head. I just set that backpack on fire.
Cool. So my recommendation would be and this anybody listening, and then I'd be suggesting you need to do it safely and in an environment where you can control the fire.
With professionals.
So not in areas where you can't light fires. Is to go and find some sticks and set the sticks on fire. Because what happens is, a friend of mine said to me, oh, I watched that video and now every time I go to, be hard on myself, I remember the video. So I think it's just doing this is just about, we use the metaphor, as you've said that, it's like, oh, well, I've heard this before, but I'm getting it this time. So by embodying it, by going out into nature, by lighting those, getting a backpack and putting, which is what I did today, because I decided I needed to take a picture of the backpack with sticks in for the YouTube. So that's what I'm doing. I mean, God knows what the dog walkers walking past are thinking, why is she putting sticks in a backpack? But the thing is that the more we can embody it, the better it is, because our brain then gets it. Because there's part of you, there's an inner wisdom of you that knows that you're brilliant and knows that you shouldn't be hard on yourself. But then there's another part of you that says, oh no, but I quite like beating myself up. So the other thing would be, is do you enjoy it? is there something? So it could be that you turn around and go, well, is there something else you could do that would be better than beating yourselves up? Is it about lighting fireworks and celebrating? Or is it, because the interesting thing is that guitar made of wood behind you?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, and this is where I have got no idea where the conversation's going. This is why I absolutely love metaphor, because it emerges. Yeah. So you've got sticks that you beat yourself up with, and yet you've got wood that's being used to make music. And then, those things that whatever you do that with see, I don't know anything about guitar.
Are they picks?
But yeah, that's that. Yeah. Are they made of wood or are they plastic?
These ones are plastic.
All right. But can you get wooden ones, or does that not
Yeah.
make them out?
Yeah, you can get wooden ones.
Yeah.
All right, so imagine that. So it's that whole, we've got, on the one hand, we've got wood being used to beat yourself up, and the other, we've got it to make music.
Or you can use it to heat yourself.
Yeah.
On a cold
so
night.
for me, it's just about playing around, because all we're doing is saying this situation that we recognize logically is not optimal, but we've still, we've got learned behaviors, we've got autopilot, we've got a whole load going on, and we just need to shake it up a bit. And we can do it logically, but if we could have done it logically, we'd have done it by now. So it's just that if we do it metaphorically, we remember it. We're able to engage with it. So if you're able to, burn and feel the warmth and go, you know what, I'm making a commitment to not beat myself up.
Well, I think the thing that works for metaphors so much, because I tend to think in metaphors, and I would call that somewhat abstract thinking, right? Because it's different from the norm and how they, it's all being, they want you to think, right? And in our culture and society, they went really far to kill imagination. Like mine and Thad's job is to write SOPs so people don't use their imagination, right? So like our business is in the business of shutting down imaginations, right? You do what you're told when you're supposed to do it. Anything outside of that is considered wrong. So the fact that I think reason people are drawn to those metaphor things, I'm sitting here listening to this whole thing, I'm like, yep, okay, cool. This is a fun exercise, or this is a helpful exercise. And it's far more helpful than sitting there, like you were saying, and being direct, right? Like, this is the problem. This is who the problem is with. And this is what I think the problem solution should be.
And
right?
I'm going to tell them.
Right. Yeah. And I'm going to be the one to change them. Their opinions are going to be mine by the end of the day. But I think the fact that people can get in touch with their imaginations and feel and see, I'm like, okay, cool. Because I got some pretty insane news not too long ago. And, I kind of I pictured, I was like, man, my life is just like, I'm always walking a tightrope, right? And any kind of wind that comes by throws me off balance, kind of one of those things. And I was like, I just got hit by a hurricane. So it's kind of like, all right, cool. But I tend to think in that way just because I think it's the imagination and the lack of imagination out there in this country anyway, at this point in time.
And if life is like a tightrope, that feels really energy sapping.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So at any point in time, we can change the metaphor. However, what you do need to do is you can't just go, oh, I'm going to do the Alison said a garden and a metaphor is nice. I'm going to have that. But it is about going, so how do I make the walking the tightrope safe? Could it be about putting the rope down on the ground and imagining, and that even going so far as to get a piece of rope and you walk along it on the ground? You see what I mean? So it's just because none of it is true at one level. Yeah, the metaphor is just a metaphor, but the one of the I keep thinking that I might do a metaphor we live by or words we live by podcast about, at the time when you used that metaphor about tightrope, it made sense. It enabled you to make decisions easily. It made to cope with things that came your way. But over time, it's like we hold on to that metaphor as if that's the only way to live. And it's about, I got a choice. And it's just about playing with it a bit more loosely. So is it and there may be some resistance because you've had that as a sort of a metaphor for years. So it would be about just playing with it really lightly. So whether it's, you know what, because how high off the ground do you imagine this tightrope?
Oh, I can't see the ground.
Yeah. So the thing would be to just play with it, to go, what happens if I could see the ground?
Yeah.
You know, what happens if it was, or what happens if I went to the Banff, well, here we have the Banff Mountain Film Festival tour in the UK, and went to it the weekend, and there was these, you know, the guys where they hurl themselves off mountains, and they've just got those, you know, they've got a parachute that they pull eventually. So is it about having one of those on? Is it about just keep lowering it? You know, what would happen? What would happen if you imagined that it was lowering slowly every day?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, and you know, it's about playing with it. It's just about being a bit playful with it. Draw
just asking
it.
questions. Yeah.
Draw it. You know, sit down, because at some point, as much as it makes sense and it enables you to describe it, it will have constraints within it. And it's the constraints that you will be able to see and go, but living like that means this.
Yeah.
It means that I don't do this, or I do this. And we all do it. I mean, we've all got our own little saying that we live by that helps us make sense of the world. We don't have to explain it to people because everybody gets the metaphor. But it can be energy draining. It can sap loads of energy out of us, or motivation out of us. And it's not the world that's doing it. It's our calling it the metaphor. So I can imagine that if I was imagining that I was doing 100-meter, you know, runs every day, it's like work is 100-meter run, 100-meter run, 100-meter run. It's like I just get bored. You know, I like the idea of having a garden where there's bits that have got overgrown and I've got to clear it and plant new things in it. So so it's just being playful with what does it look like when I draw it, and I suppose it's keeping going until you laugh at it. Because currently, I can see it feels real, and it feels this is right. But if you stick with it in terms of drawing it and going, oh well, perhaps I need somebody else on another tightrope standing right next to me, or I need one of those balancing things, or I need, you know, perhaps I'm going, you know, the other thing would go really absurd. Try tightrope warping with roller skates on. You see what I mean? So, and what we're trying to do when we're shifting the metaphor is to go for that laughter, because the laughter is what jigs our brain to go, oh yeah, I have a choice. I can do, you know, sometimes life does throw things at me and it really will still feel like that. But you know, other times I can just step off. I can put my feet on solid ground and just notice what that feels like. And not to just do it in your head, but to do it actually. So that's why I'm saying get a piece of rope, stand on it, go, oh, this is how it feels. Step off it and go, how does that feel?
Do you think there's something in your brain that when you do the physical act of, like you said, if you put a piece of rope on the ground and you feel your feet can feel the rope and then you step off, I imagine there's some kind of actual connection in your brain that, you know, there's like neurons firing that the light bulb comes on, you know?
Yeah, there's a book called Move, but I can't remember if it's by Caroline somebody. I really do need to get it out. That's color coded. I can't. My bookshelf behind me is color coded, and therefore I can't find anything. But she talks about the fact that just moving forward enables us to actually say, "I'm leaving the problem behind." So there's a heck of a lot of, and there's the whole moving our body. So it's like we're accessing different parts of our brain. So I think there's so many things going on there. If we're getting outside, you know, we've got connection, we've got breathing, we've got movement, we've got connection with nature. We've also then got the metaphorical, we're moving forward, which is why if you want to turn a corner, go and find a corner and turn it.
Yeah, that's actually, I actually find when I have, you know, I'm in those spots, if I take my shoes off and walk in the grass in my, my yard or garden, it, you know, there's a real grounding, you know, thing of your body's electric and science and hippie stuff, but I feel a lot better when I do that. That's for sure. So, well, tell us about. So we've got the book. You can get the book. You can go to your website, alisonsmith.co. That's one L in Alison, ALISON Smith.co. You can also find the book on Amazon. You can get it on Amazon, and your YouTube channel is Landscaping Your Life with Alison Smith. And then you said you had a TikTok now?
I think that's Landscaping Your Life as well.
Yeah. And you're on Instagram. We'll link to all these in the show notes. All your social media. The TikTok's taken off. That's all my I have early 20-year-old kids, and my wife they just TikTok all the time.
Well, my
Anywhere we go.
outtakes, I think the thing is that the longer YouTube, there's always an outtake where it's me being a bit silly, or, it's sort of aha. So, but as I say, today I posted something, and within like 5 minutes, somebody's going, oh, that's what I needed to hear today. It's like,
yeah,
really? Oh, cool.
Yeah. All this is what I needed to hear today.
Sorry?
I said all of this is what I needed to hear today.
Thank you. Well, and I think that's the reminder. When we did, because I joined Podmatch, this is how I found about you, or you found out about me, and the mechanism for saying, do you want to go and be a guest on somebody's podcast? And when I started it, I said to my PA, right, we're going to have to review the return on investment in however many months, and then within a month, I'm saying to her, nah, it is worth paying for me to just talk about what I'm passionate about every week.
Yeah.
And because it reminds me about, like, this conversation has just reminded me about why I do it, and reminded me about how powerful it is. Because the feedback I've got from you is, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's like, yeah, that's why you're doing the YouTube, Alison, because to me, I mean, TikTok possibly, but YouTube, there's a possibility of income if I get enough people following me. That then means I can just do what I enjoy, which is rabbit on about all of the things that I've rabbited on to you about, without worrying about it.
Yeah, I think that's the. I think for at least for me, and I think for Tyler too, is I would love to do this full time. Because Tyler, you always talk about, like, if we didn't do this, most of the people, we wouldn't have had these experiences. I wouldn't normally. We're not touchy-feely kind of guys. We come
Nor
from
am I
a
social butterfly.
Yeah. No, you're kind of a social butterfly.
Only around people I know.
Yeah, that's true. But I think we don't run in circles that talk about this stuff. And I think it's good for us, at least, is when you do get a text or an email or a comment like, hey, that really helped me. That's you're just putting fuel in my tank, and that's why I think we like to do it, or at least I do. And I think when you're genuinely passionate about something, which is clear you are, if you go on your YouTube's or your YouTube channel and you see it, you watch the videos, and it's genuine. This is not you. It's not work for you. It doesn't appear like it's work for you. So. And I think that resonates with people, and they connect with it, and it makes them more likely to put their guard down and listen. That they're not trying to, everything's a sales thing. I'm not a huge social media person. I use LinkedIn for most of my stuff, and every person on LinkedIn is a sales pitch now it's ridiculous how bad it is, but it's nice to see somebody that's out there just doing it because this is what you're passionate about. And I think that resonates with folks. So what's next for Alison? What do you got next on the horizon?
What I've discovered on the YouTube is that, when you start something, because I've just posted and I've dumped things there previously. And of course I've gone into the rabbit hole, which is, I didn't know what I didn't know. It's like, I need to take my ums out. I need to think about the thumbnail. So I suspect the next few months is just going to be getting lost in the rabbit hole, which is fine-tuning what I'm doing on YouTube. I've also got a poetry book that I'm thinking of publishing, and also got a fiction, sort of fiction, but it's a self-help fiction, I suppose. It's an allegorical tale that I've started to write, and I need to continue to write.
Yeah, you should do it. And I think, now that I'm realizing that I say and all the time too. I just looked on your website, and it totally threw me off, and that's why there's a awkward thing. There's a picture of you with your head in the sand, and it's having your head in the sand, and then you actually have a picture of you putting your head in the sand. So I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it was so funny because I went down to the beach, because I like 5 minutes walk from the beach, and walked down there, and there was somebody dug a hole in the beach, so I didn't have to dig it. And I thought, I need a picture, and I was on my own. So I went up to a dog walker and said, can you take a picture? And of course, they're just thinking that I'm going to, stand up. And of course, I said, no, I need you to take a picture of me while I put my head in the sand.
So it's a total stranger?
Yeah, I didn't know them. Yeah. No, I mean, because these days I perhaps do know the dog walkers better than I did then. But I suspect, then they would have just gone, I'd got some weird woman asking me to take a picture of her head in the sand. So if I'm prepared to do it, so there is a picture of me somewhere, rock between a heart place. There's a picture of me where my little feet are sticking out. So yeah, so in order to make a point, I'm quite prepared to do it. And to be fair, I love doing video blogging in the sea. So at any opportunity, I'll do one in the sea, in my wetsuit or not wetsuit, dependent on what time of year.
Yeah, that's how you know you're passionate. If you're willing to get in cold water, and anybody that's never swam in cold water, I grew up surfing on the East Coast of the U.S., and it gets cold, but not North Sea cold. I mean, our coldest water temperature is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what's that in Celsius? Cold, but not that cold. Not as cold as North Sea.
Ours here gets down to about 6, and I think that's about 46. I think.
Okay, yeah, that's about the same. That's pretty close. It's cold. Like take your breath away cold.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And definitely cold water shock. Yeah. Kicks in.
Yeah. Do you do the plunge tank? I mean, you don't really need to because you go swimming in the ocean.
No, I don't. The sun has to be shining.
Yeah.
But I don't mind if there's frost on the ground. So I don't. The temperature's not the problem, but I do want shiny sea.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do it. I said to somebody, perhaps I should learn how to, should start swimming when it's horrible weather. And she said, but you do it for the connection with nature, and you don't do it to do the swimming. So it's as if you'd be forcing yourself to do something that it doesn't give you joy. It's like, no, you're right. I enjoy going. I quite often like going on my own because it's just that me and nature, completely immersed in it, shiny, so that's why the sunrise, high tide, oh God, that's just, especially because of the wind, because of where the sun is coming up from October to March here, then we just get pink skies, I mean, there's one picture that I have used on YouTube, which is pink sky, pink sea, because of the sky reflecting on it. It's just fabby.
Oh, that's a new one. I'm going to use that. Fabby. I like it.
Fabby. Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Alison, I think this has been really good. This is there was a lot of a lot of light bulb moments for me today, and what at least I'm dealing with, and Tyler's already. I can tell by his
guinea
face.
Pig.
He's
processing.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I think you're going to do big things and continue to do stuff. And just one last time, if you go over to Landscaping Your Life with Alison Smith on YouTube. You can also go to her website at alisonsmith.co. That's ALISON Smith.co. 2 books, Your Prescription for a Well-Being Journal. It's you can go to her website and order your journal right off the website. And the other book is Can't See the Wood for the Trees. You can also go to her website, or you can go on Amazon and get that book, and then look for her on social media. We'll link to it all in the show notes, so you don't have to go digging. You can just click on that. And Alison, any last parting words of wisdom for the people that might be listening to this?
Yes. If you've planted seeds in a garden, you don't immediately start poking it with your finger, going, "Why have you not grown?" You know that seeds need time to germinate and grow. So just because you can't see the signs doesn't mean to say things aren't happening underground. So it's sort of have patience, because nature teaches us a lot about patience and timing.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good advice.
You're the one person I needed to talk to today, so thank you.
Cool.
All right, Alison. Well, thanks so much. We should do a follow-up. I'm interested to see how things are going, and
I've thoroughly enjoyed the chat. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah. So happy to do that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting with us today, and we'll do it again.
It was nice to meet you, Alison. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.